Welcome back to the Quiet on Set podcast powered by Cineman. I'm Ewan, and as always, I'm joined by Lachlan.
This week's episode, we have a number of topics to go through. Oscars, multiverses, Star Wars. When I say Star Wars, it's just failed Star Wars projects. There is so much to talk about. When I say so much, just those things. That's it.
That's that. I watched some TV shows. I watched Poker Face and the first two episodes of The Mandalorian. I also caught up with the not-so-favored 65 starring Adam Driver. We'll talk about the final Oscar ones that you caught as well.
I also caught up on the majority of the Scream series, so that today's topic of conversation, Scream 6, I have a backstory. Oh my god. Oh my god.
Well, what's up?
Look out! Look out! Ah!
Let's cue the intro.
We are professionals.
This is a professional podcast.
Yes.
Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul. Hello there.
Which actually,
Did you
this
get
is gonna
me a
be
hat
a
as
bit,
well?
Yes.
So I've got Dooncam. It's just a camera with my Dune steelbook.
Yo, what's up? What's up, Ghostface? How you doing?
Oh, God.
You know those Letterboxd film lovers? That's a spoiler for. No, that's not a spoiler for the film. Those Letterboxd accounts that are seemingly the killers. That's us, baby. It was us all along.
You weren't late because of whatever you were trying to tell me you were late for. You were trying to organize this, weren't you?
yeah, I was last second. I had a
man.
shower thought. That was this. So let's
Perfect.
get into the show. Anyways, Scream today. We also got some other stuff we'll talk about. We'll get to Scream later. You can check the time codes to skip to that. Right ahead, we'll do a non-spoiler intro if you haven't caught it. But then we get into full-on spoilers now that been enough time for people to catch up with it. And I'm really looking forward to it. It was a fun one. Let's talk about the news first. I don't really have any news items other than there was a trailer for the Ninja Turtles animated film with a stacked cast.
Crazy cast. It's wicked.
I feel like, after Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, now we got something like Puss in Boots and now this. I think that type of animation style is really like, you can see how influential that film from 2018 was. It takes like 4 years usually to do like high-end animated films, and you can really see it like, seep into just the general animation productions. And I really dig the style. So looks fun. I've never watched the Ninja Turtles. I don't know about you, Lachlan.
I definitely did. I was a big Ninja Turtle fan when I was younger. For me, it's the TMNT film, animated film that I kind of grew up with. I think it's like 2008. That was my Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle film. This is interesting because this animation style, obviously, it's very comic booky in its style, similar to Spider-Verse. I don't think Puss in Boots has the same hardcore style that this kind of takes place in. With Puss in Boots, it had that influence, but it wasn't fully there. This one definitely has that heavier style that is going on with Spider-Verse. So, I'm excited. I mean, the cast. The cast.
The cast. Yeah, let's talk about the cast.
All I care about is Seth Rogen and John Cena, Bebop and
Of course.
Rocksteady.
Donkey Kong.
Jackie Chan is Splinter. That's excellent. So many crazy people who are voice acting in this. It's insane. Like, we go down this topic of conversation where should actors do voice acting, and some of these actors, they're just iconic with their voice. Like, Seth Rogen is a great example of that. Like, I'm sure that we could blindfold a good 40% of the population and play Seth Rogen's laugh, and they'll be like, yeah, that's Seth Rogen. So I feel like some of these are kind of tiptoeing the line of, they're actors, but they could also be really good voice actors. So hopefully they won't be as cringy as some other actors go in voice acting, but I'm excited. I'm keen.
Yeah, I mean, looking at the list, I think like someone like Rose Byrne is someone who's done a ton of voice acting. Maya Rudolph as well. Hannibal Buress, I think, as well. So there's like a bunch of people who really are into that, and it's just great actors who can just do whatever, like Post Malone. No, Giancarlo Esposito. So I'm keen for this. I'll definitely be checking it out. I might need to catch up on some of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle stuff. But I'm keen. Lachlan, you got some stuff. No Ghostface in the background, but you went onto Reddit, which might be even scarier.
No, it's just where I get all my news, and I trust everything. No, I'm kidding. There's just a couple of news articles that came across on r/movies. I'm a bit of a Reddit fiend as well with Letterboxd. It's kind of like the two things I just endlessly scroll for some reason. But Michael B. Jordan seems to be creating a multiverse, a CreedVerse, as it says in the title, across Amazon for film and TV. So we can see that the creators of the Rocky Creed world are expanding and are wanting to create some TVs and movies based on Creed itself. So that's just an interesting development within this ever expanding, Sylvester Stallone would like Rocky back. They're not going to give him Rocky back. They're just going to go hard with Creed. So I could see that them putting Rocky to sleep and going full ahead with Creed. You wouldn't mind that though. You like the Creed films, right?
I mean, I watched some interviews that Michael B. Jordan had. I think there was one on like the DGA podcast where I was talking to Tim Miller, and he mentioned that that Irving Winkler or whatever, he's got lots of wrinkles, so I don't know which one it is. Like gave him the go ahead to direct as well, like to giving the assurance, yeah, you can do this. So I feel like if they back someone who's like that into it, they definitely want to expand on it. So producer mind from them, money hungry. It definitely makes sense that they are like all in with him. Even before this was a huge hit, because the Rocky films have done quite well for themselves, and now this being the highest grossing, I think, in the entire series so far when it comes to the amount of days it's been out. Obviously, Rocky was like, back in the 70s or 80s, and it just stayed for a shit ton of time, made like $660 million total. So that was a huge hit. I don't know if Creed 3 will go the distance, that far, but it's certainly a franchise they continue exploring with Drago, with his daughter. So yeah, lots more boxing to come. I don't mind it if it's innovative, if the fights are exciting. Story was a bit lacking. We talked about that last week. So if we can improve on that, I'm all in for it.
Yeah. I mean, full thoughts for Creed back on the previous episode of the podcast.
Yeah.
You can catch up on that if you'd like. We have mixed thoughts on everything. It's a bit of a switch in comparison to the rest of the Rocky and Creed films. But to move on, Ewan, I have to ask you, because I haven't seen it on what you've been watching yet. Have you seen The Mandalorian Season 3 yet? Have you watched any episodes yet? Because I have not, funnily enough.
Yeah, it's kind of, they didn't really promote it that much, to be honest.
No, it just kind of came out, didn't it?
Yeah, and
That's crazy.
I mean, I caught the first 2 episodes. I got screeners for it. Like, they sent out the screeners a day before it launched for the first 2 episodes. So I haven't even watched it like this week, and the next, it comes out Wednesdays. And yeah, they had an opening. I can talk about it a bit more in what we've been watching, because this is not what this is about. This is about more generally the future of Star Wars.
Yeah, because 2 Star Wars, I guess, spin-offs led by Kevin Feige and Patty Jenkins have kind of been put on the shelf or the back burner with Disney. Taika Waititi's Star Wars-led trilogy or film is still going forward, with it apparently looking at him starring in his own film. Shocker. Taika Waititi starring in his own film. Shocker. I'm in mixed minds about this, because I think Kevin Feige has done some pretty good stuff with Marvel, even though he's done some pretty rough stuff recently as obviously the king, the lord and savior of the MCU. Patty Jenkins, mixed feelings as well. I guess I'm not totally happy and not happy that something like this is happening, but the Star Wars universe just seems to be a mess right now. Like, they don't know where they want to go, what they want to do. They have some sort of idea, but then they retract stuff. It's just put some stuff out, be confident with it, and just have some good audience testers. Like, that's the easiest way, is like from an early point, just get some people in who are Star Wars fans, who aren't Star Wars fans, who are interested in seeing something new, who aren't interested in seeing something new, and just give them the general gist, get them to sign NDAs and see how they feel, because you're not going to get that from couple screeners. And maybe they'll take a note out of Warner Brothers' book and just not do the film and pull it last minute, even though it's like finally finished, edited, final picture lock, everything, and it's ready to release, but they just pull it. I'm looking at Batgirl for that one.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's bad if they constantly go with, hey, let's do this movie and it needs to lead to a trilogy, because that structure is kind of getting repetitive.
Yeah.
I would rather see them try to do something that kind of, no, it didn't fail because what they did with Andor was still tied to episode 4, kind of a, hey, how did they get the plans?
Yeah.
With Solo, like, how did he get his name? That's the main question that was answered in that movie. But do something like Acolyte, that's set in the High Republic era, or like do a different era of this vastly expansive universe.
Yeah.
Don't just stick with the Skywalkers. Because then you might find something that works, you might find something that doesn't work. Take out of the take a note from your other productions from Marvel. The space stuff is expensive. It costs a shit ton of money to do right. But if you do costumes and stuff like that, it's definitely like easier to do. So what I'm trying to say is do smaller budget stuff, see if it works. Don't just be the big guy in the room all the time, putting out huge risk that, if there's no high reward in it. The horror thing of like having a smaller budget, getting a bigger return. Do that for franchises as well. There's no reason why, Scream 6 would tell you otherwise, the rules for a franchise, that you need to have a bigger budget, bigger cast, whatever. But you don't always need to do that. That might be already outdated what Scream is telling you. If you want to sustain your franchise, you gotta have some fresh new twists in it, and that's not just have a new movie that's somewhat kind of tied into the rest of it and setting up young characters to come further down the line. That's not what you have to do with franchises. You kind of have to be innovative and not just cater to, hey, it's another step. You gotta be the whole journey, not just one step along the way. So hopefully Star Wars can turn it around. One of some of their shows are pretty decent. I think The Mandalorian, it's fun. It's like the popcorn thing. It's not like actual like great entertainment, I'd say. That's more Andor. But we'll see.
Some people will say the complete opposite though. Some people will say that Andor is, it's okay, but then Mandalorian is where Star Wars needs to be. I guess we'll find out soon, because in the next couple of months, I believe that there's Star Wars celebration months, and the May the 4th or whatever it is, where they celebrate Star Wars. I don't know. I like Star Wars, but I'm not that into it where I dress up and, write down on my annual census that I'm a Jedi for my religion. But yeah, that's pretty much all the news this week that I had on Reddit.
Exactly. Let's talk about some of the Scream films, Lachlan, that you've caught up with.
I'm quite familiar with the... Sorry, my dog is just moving around. I'm quite familiar with Scream 1. I've watched that a bajillion times. I've just never been I've never watched all of the Scream films. I've seen them. Finally, like bits and pieces. I've studied them. Like I just never sat down and watched them. I just like analyzed scenes that were in the film, and I read the screenplays and all of that. But I never actually watched them, if that makes any sense. Like sat down, popcorn in hand, like, yeah, this is great. This is exciting.
Your knife on the side.
Exactly. So to finally sit down and watch Scream 2, 3, and 4, because I watched Scream 5 last week, was kind of exciting. And I would say that every single one of them lived up to the expectation. Left me excited to watch the next one. And they were honestly quite an enjoyable ride. None of them left me disappointed, except maybe 4. I didn't enjoy 4 as much as the others, but I had a great time with the entire Scream series, and I kind of expected that. I've always enjoyed the Scream humor. I've always enjoyed meta humor, and it was only until I watched 6, which we'll get into shortly, I realized how different 5 and 6 are with their protagonists compared to the originals. We'll get to that shortly. Other than that, I watched Ivalu, I believe it's called.
I valued you too, man. Thank you. That's so nice of you to say.
One of the last Oscar films that I was going to watch, and it was alright. I didn't mind it. I didn't hate it. 16 minutes. It was short, in and out. Actually watched it before we even started this podcast. And I watched the latest episode of The Last of Us. Okay, I'm going to let you out now because you're breathing very heavily.
Spoilers for up to episode 8 in The Last of Us. If you haven't caught it, check the time codes if you don't want to be spoiled. But yeah, what did you make of that really page to page controller to TV screen?
Game to
I don't know.
Console to screen? Console to console?
I like the sound of that. Yeah.
I guess that's the easiest way to put it. Probably the most cut and paste of any of the episodes so far, in my opinion. And I didn't hate it because it's always been one of the most impactful parts, and it's also one of the most implied parts of the game. You don't really get a lot told in that scene what David's intentions are. You get a little bit more in the TV show But more importantly, it's about this experience that Ellie goes through. And I don't think they had to change it. And they didn't change it. And that's a good thing because it's just as impactful on the show as it is in the game.
Yeah.
I'm lucky enough to have someone that I know who's watching the show who's never played the game themselves. So they're experiencing it for themselves for the first time. They've watched a gameplay, whatever they called, walkthrough or playthrough that they do on YouTube, but he's never actually seen it himself. Not knowing what's coming up is quite exciting, is what he said. But at the same time, it's like, you also, if you know what's going on and what's coming up, it's also very exciting.
Yeah.
I don't think you have to play the game. And if you have played the game, you're not missing out on anything because it's a unique story with two characters who are similar, but not the exact ones from the game. So I think that it's going to definitely, and I know it definitely has increased sales for The Last of Us Part 1 when the series released. And I could definitely see some people picking up the game once the series finishes. I could definitely see, I think definitely most people who have played the game are probably watching the TV series because they enjoyed the game. They're definitely going to enjoy this. But it's exciting how even though this is a very story-driven game, it's not ruining the show at all. And that's a testament to the story of how good it is, how strong it is. It's also a great example of how two actors' relationships on screen, and that's Pedro and Bella, their relationship that they show on screen as Joel and Ellie, is spectacular. And that definitely draws you in. And at the end of that episode, he's hugging Ellie, he says, baby girl. Whoo! Men will cry at that scene, boy.
And then leading into episode 9, the final one. I know, by the time this comes out, it's already been out. We're not gonna spoil what happens there if you haven't caught it for some reason. But it perfectly leads Joel to where he needs to be for the rest of the story. And I believe it's not rushed. It kind of worked. We might quickly do a series review when we both have seen the last episode to kind of give our final thoughts on the whole series.
Yeah.
But to me so far, I've watched about 15 shows already this year. This has been my favorite so far. So really been enjoying it. And I'll be one of the ones playing The Last of Us Part 2, I think starting on the day that this episode comes out. That night, if you want to swing by on my YouTube channel, we'll be starting the playthrough of The Last of Us
I'm
Part 2.
excited for you to play it. Maybe I should replay it
Yeah,
as well.
I'm so keen. Oh, that would be fun. But the thing is, you are always I have planned to do it 3 consecutive days: Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and then I'm hopefully done. I will probably not stick to that schedule, but and you'll end up putting in so many more hours. I'm still not done with Hogwarts Legacy.
Yeah.
And you got 50 hours in it at this point.
Yeah, I'm done. I finished the game.
You done. You've been done, and you have done the game completely. You're probably pretty close to all the quests and whatever. What's your consensus score that you would give to Hogwarts Legacy now that you've fully completed it?
I've had a lot of time to think about it. And this is where I feel the most comfortable giving my scores is a couple of weeks after watching it and letting it settle a little bit. So sometimes I will go back to my Letterboxd reviews and I'll move the stars up and down a little bit to what feels a bit more me after sitting on it for a little bit. Hogwarts Legacy is okay. It's okay. But the core gameplay of spells and exploration is done pretty damn well as someone who's quite curious, and I'm someone who walks to places, doesn't fast travel to places, and I like to explore a little bit. So that's why games like this pique my interest, because there's little bits of interaction all around the place. But the story, especially the final boss battle, I guess the dialogue and the motion capture is all terrible.
Yeah.
The stuff that's kind of keeping you in. And again, when you told me this very early on, you said, just skip the dialogue. And I was like, no, I don't skip dialogue. I don't. Yeah, I skip dialogue. Yeah. Probably about 20 hours in, I started just going skip.
It's pretty bad. And I've seen some people now complete the game, so I'm kind of spoiled to where it leads to, because I then discovered, okay, it's actually really underwhelming, and I just thought there might be something more coming. But it is so simple in the main storyline. It's a bit unfortunate, but I'll somehow end up completing it. I don't know if I'll do it on stream or I'll do it privately. Maybe just close it out on stream and then maybe do some of the side quests that are a bit more fun on the side. But yeah, my side quest is always watch the latest films that have just released. Operation Fortune, Ruse de Guerre, the new Guy Ritchie film, has finally released, I think, internationally, at least in English-speaking countries. It's already been out since like January somewhere. It was supposed to come out like in July 2022. And then it got pushed. Like I had an invite to a press screening, and it just got canceled and canned for like almost 9 months. And there's a reason to it. I caught it a while ago as well, but it's out now, and I don't know, Lachlan, if you'll catch up with it, it might be something that warrants a full review next week, but I was just kind of okay on it. It was all right. It was fine entertainment, but one of the weaker Guy Ritchie films. Something that we actually wanted to do a main review for next week, because it also came out on the same week as Scream 6, is the Adam Driver-led 65, which I thought was a time travel movie. It's not even a time travel movie. It's like a parallel universe. It's not really explained. It's really dumb. Dinosaurs and Adam Driver and a young girl stranded on the planet. It's got the worst parts of, I guess, forcing a relationship between these two, although they're not related, because he relates to it because he also has a daughter that's a similar age. They do that whole thing. A bunch of not really that exciting dino chase scenes. It's kind of the same shtick repeated over and over again. They hide. It's silent. Something jumps out. They gotta fight. They move on. There's no real narrative through line that's really compelling to the film. So we will probably skip out on it and not make you watch it, although it's a breeze, like 85-minute watch. I can't really recommend it. I gave it like a 4 out of 10. So really unfortunate there, quite underwhelming. Could be worse. I did catch up with 2 classics before I get into the TV shows. I caught Raging Bull and The Fly, and had a great experience with it. 2 really great, fun movies. Yeah, I mean, Raging Bull, I really didn't know what to go in for, because it's like this much acclaimed film that a lot of the time is named as like the top 4 films of all time. I wouldn't put it up there now, having been removed, about like 43 years or something like that from its release. It's a great character study. I think Scorsese tends to do that quite well with the rise and fall, although here it's just like he raises his hand at his wife the whole time. That's basically all the rise that this guy goes through. But it's interesting. It's also getting a 4K restoration already out in some places, so really crisp, new way. Maybe some theaters will end up putting it into their selection. I know once we get the German subtitles, it will probably end up in the local theater that I work at, if I have any say in it. I definitely want to see that on the big screen again. And then The Fly. Really weird film. Lachlan, have you caught The Fly yet?
I've seen it.
I like a type of movie that just like jumps straight in to the action. It doesn't waste any time. It's like a weird scientist. He invites the journalist back home, tries to impress her. There's a whole bunch of naked Jeff Goldblum in it. Who can complain about that? And then he just turns into this hideous thing. And I mean, I think it could even be condensed down a bit more, because some of the character stuff didn't completely work with me with the relationship, but it's such an interesting decay into madness that he portrays there. Some amazing prosthetics. Jeff Goldblum, not as much as the Jeff Goldblum character on screen yet, just like an actual character in a movie. I kind of don't like when the persona of an actor becomes more of what they usually play, other than, I guess, what's on the script. That's been fun. Just briefly, Poker Face, quick shout out to that. It's getting its second season. Ryan Johnson been doing the first 2 episodes, and then the last one, it's kind of weird that like the last episode to the show, to a really great show, was to be the weakest of the whole season run. But that's either on Peacock or Paramount Plus. I think it's on Peacock. It's one of the 2 Ps. Can recommend it. It's fun if you like Knives Out and Glass Onion. This is probably better than Glass Onion even. Then book, novel to series adaptation, a fictional band, Daisy Jones and the Six. Got an Amazon Prime release date. I think by the time this episode comes out, we are about to close out on the season. And I gotta say, it's just kind of mid. It's okay. It's like, if you're into these like biopic-y type of movies about like bands, and you watch the docs of a bunch of artists, you might get a lot out of it, because it like is the fan fiction written out and portrayed to you by really hot people, and you can live vicariously through them. I was just a bit bored and underwhelmed. It's okay. And then, yeah, The Consultant, weird little show, I think also on Prime, is about a game company where the head of the game company gets killed, and then a consultant comes in, and he's really weird. He doesn't seem like completely human. And then, not Nate Wolf. I'm messing it up in my head who it is. It's one of the what was he in? One guy and another and a girl assistant have to uncover the mystery. It was also not too great. And then caught the Mandalorian episode 1 and 2 of season 3. Setting up some stuff. They went from like something that could have been like half the season of side quests and basically streamlined straight to it in episode 2. I like that. It's not wasting our time too much. They don't explain why Grogu is back at all. They just assume you watch Boba Fett. They don't even address it in the recap that they do. They do a recap specifically to catch you up to speed for season 3, and they don't mention like specifically why Grogu is back. It's baffling what they do with Star Wars over at Disney. But that's all I watched. So let's get to Scream 6. Following the latest Ghostface killings, the 4 survivors leave Woodsboro behind and start a fresh chapter in New York City. We got the Core 4, the self-titled Core 4, back at it again. Now, the reception for this film has been really warm so far. It's doing quite well at the box office as well, tracking record high numbers for the franchise as a whole. It's coming off a budget of $35 million. On Letterboxd, it's currently a 3.9, on IMDb a 7.5, and on Metacritic a bit lower with a 61 over there. It's over 2 hours long, 2 hours and 3 minutes to be exact, and comes from the Ready or Not directors and the directors of Scream 5. Yes, it's called Scream 5. Don't say it's Scream. It's so stupid. The CEO for this, when I tried to to Google it, I typed in Scream, and I wanted to get the initial one. There's no way if you type in Google Scream that you get Scream from like the 90s. You always get the latest one, and it's so annoying. You got to type in Scream 1 now. That's my little rant. But yeah, it comes from the directors Matt Bettinelli, Open, and Tyler Gillett. They've done Scream 5 from 2022. And this one now, they seem to be continuing the franchise here. So before we talk about our spoilers, we'll give proper spoiler warnings because this is a whodunit Scream film, a classic one with that, so we don't want to spoil the surprise for you just yet. But Lachlan, what did you make of the film overall?
I had a great time in the cinema, and that's the best place to watch this film or any kind of Scream film or any kind of horror film, really, until it gets on streaming. I think watching it in the cinema is the best experience, especially for this one. This is just so much fun. There's returning characters. There's whodunits. You're trying to figure out who did it, especially coming off watching it past the past week. The entire time, just like, is it you? Is it you? Is it you? I don't know if it's you. I don't know if it's you. Scream is fun for that reason. And the more Screams they do, the more insane they have to get. That's the point of a sequel. They even say that in the sequel. And this is the sequel to the reboot, the requel. So this makes it a sweet requel.
The sequel requel, yeah.
Sequel requel. There is just so much fun to this film because it's, again, making so much fun of horror films. And that is my style of humor, in the sense that you make fun of something else and that shit then happens. And that's the best part of Scream, because in the first 30 minutes, they tell you what's going to happen. They tell you this is the parameters that we're currently in. And that's the best part of this film the part of any Scream film, I should say, is that they tell you what's going to happen and you still get surprised and shocked.
Actually, I got the rules right here that they spell out. There's an obligatory rules moment here. First up is everything is bigger, the body count, the chases, beheadings I even mentioned.
Which happens.
We'll get to see. We'll talk about that more in spoilers. Second is you got to subvert expectations when it comes to a franchise. There's no whiny snowflake film nerds with letterbox accounts instead of personalities this time around, which we'll get into spoilers if that's actually true. I've also felt personally attacked. I think Letterboxd was also excited. Someone asked me right after the screening if this is actually the first time Letterboxd is name dropped in a film. I think it's not. It's been done a couple of times. I've seen it in like some smaller productions, but like an actual big $35 million production, I think this is the biggest name drop of it so far. So yeah, good for them. And then lastly, no one is safe. Everyone can die. Everyone can be the killer again, especially legacy characters in the sequel to the franchise thing later down the line are expendable. And she name drops a whole bunch of people here. She name drops Laurie Strode from Halloween, who didn't really die. I think she died in Halloween 4, but that was just before it actually started. So I don't know. I don't completely get her reference there. Then she also name dropped Nacy Thompson from The Nightmare on Elm Street. She dies in number 3. Ellen Ripley also dies in Alien 3. Thank you for spoiling me. I haven't seen that yet. Sally Hardesty from the Chainsaw Massacre films, killed in the terrible 2022 movie. Jigsaw, he dies, but he also never dies because he kind of is just brought back in every single movie.
He's kind of like Ghostface.
Yeah, he is. Yeah, although it's always the same guy.
Yeah.
In a sense, but it's just kind of tie it back to
He
that
died
guy.
of cancer, but then he didn't die of cancer, but then he died of another cancer, but that cancer didn't kill him. Now he's got like
He dies of cancer in like 3 movies straight,
Yeah.
but it's just like they all happen simultaneously. But Saw 10 happening this year. I'm looking forward to that. Maybe revisiting some of those films. Then Tony Stark, big name drop here. So if you didn't get all of these previous references for the people who don't watch horror films, they made sure to end it with Tony Stark. Big one here with big spoilers if you haven't seen the last James Bond film. James Bond, like that, probably the best out of the whole name drop where the death kind of makes sense for the franchise. And then finally, they even killed Luke Skywalker. I would have probably went with Han Solo here for the reference because that was a bit more impactful to me. But yeah, they did kill the Mr. Skywalker himself. So that's all the new rules. I think in spoiler discussion, I do have some thoughts on which ones they actually adhere to, or maybe that Mindy tends to be wrong about stuff. That's kind of a fun thing that they play with as well, that like they establish these rules, but then the characters within it can also just be wrong. And that's kind of a fun thing they play around. But what did you make of the new setting of the Big Apple in New York City?
at least from my knowledge, this is the first time it's taken place in New York, so I'm glad they're doing it somewhere else.
Yep.
But again, they were somewhere else in Scream 2 in a college campus. Now they're in a college campus, and it's like, oh, look, it's linking back to
Yeah.
this original sequel. I liked the New York setting. Even though it's not used to, I think it's full advantage. There's just a few scenes that definitely have to take place in New York. The subway scene, you know, just general city skyline scenes. Like, it probably makes the most sense to do it in
Yep.
New York since it's more iconic that way. But I don't think they use the city to its advantage, but that's never what it's been
No.
about, really. So I was quite excited to have that as a change of scenery, not Woodsboro, not Hollywood, nothing like that.
Scream 3, was that in Hollywood? Did they go to LA for that one? Because there was like the Stab Productions. 2 was in the college, and then 3 was, I guess, with the Stab Productions.
3's the movie, Stab, yeah, and then it's like the spin-offs, and then, yeah, Stab.
Is that in
4.
Hollywood, though? I kind of forget.
I think it's in LA.
It's in LA, yeah. Okay,
it?
interesting. Yeah, it kind of blacked out because for me, it's like they all set it kind of in Woodsboro, adjacent or whatever. But yeah, I guess they really are not, apart from 1 and 4. Yeah, and 5, I guess. But yeah, I mean, they also wanted to kick off a new trilogy with Scream 4, and then that like underperformed quite a bit at the box office, being by far the one that performed the least well, I guess. I kind of,
Yeah.
you rewatched it, and we do get a returning character here. Obviously, we get the whole cast back, who somehow made it out of Scream 5, with some of them just being stabbed over and over again. Looking at you, Chad. I don't know how. I mean, he's Chad. I think that's
He's a
all
Chad.
the explanation you need.
He's the Dewey of this series.
But I mean, Dewey gets like stabbed once or twice, and then he's like wheeled off and survives.
Yeah, but
But,
he's
I
also
mean, not all
stabbed
the
in
time.
other ones, and then he's like stabbed a bunch of times in the back in the music scene, and then he's whacked in the head in Scream 4. So he gets beaten
Yeah.
up every movie.
Unless you go from like back and forth all the way up, then
Yeah.
with guts spilling out, you are killing him. Yeah, no, I mean, I also rewatched Scream 5, and he gets like stabbed like 4 or 5 times in that one, and they leave him off like still breathing, looking down, and like there's headlights coming in. That's why Ghostface takes off. So rewatching it, I think it kind of makes more sense that it makes it out of that film. We'll talk about him a bit more. I don't know if he gets stabbed in this or not. Well, he probably will get stabbed. Like, everyone gets probably stabbed like at least once in these films, even if you're a main character and you make it out alive. Specifically, how much and if he makes it, we'll get into that in a second. Just overall, I think this movie is a bit. I think like Scream 5 already picked it up when it comes to the violence and staying a bit longer on the stabs. making them a bit more visceral, showing a bit more blood as well. What did you make of this? Was this like something that you saw a tonal shift here that was happening, or was it more in line with the whole franchise so far?
There's just been a massive focus in the violence. That's a sequel. And they said it's right there. It's number one, more gore, whatever it is. Everything is bigger. Body count, chases, beheadings. Like, the thing is, with the sequel, it needs to be a bigger moment. And it's not the take away from anything. I said this earlier when we did what we've been watching. The shift of Scream, I guess, 1, 2, 3, and 4 to Scream 5 and 6 is the fact that the main character, who is Samantha, likes killing. Where obviously Sydney and Gale and Dewey do it out of survival, and even in they shoot them in the head to not come back, but that's to make sure they don't come back. They don't take pleasure out of that. Samantha does, and so does Tara in a scene as well. She looks like she's also enjoying it. So there's this weird sort of pleasure being taken place with killing someone in this series. So obviously there's a bigger fascination around why Ghostface killers do this. They do it because they want to copy it, but also they want to make a sequel, where in this one, it's kind of like, does Samantha like killing for killing? And is she going to be able to get rid of that sort of feeling ever? I guess we're going to see that as the thing goes on. Yeah. And obviously it kind of alludes to her becoming a Ghostface killer eventually, which would be an ultimate, twist where it's actually a main character becoming a Ghostface killer. That would be interesting as a Scream film. A natural progression.
Maybe they did that even in this one. We don't know, because we haven't talked about spoilers yet. We never know. Do you want to get into spoilers?
We'll have to, because it's Scream. Like, there's no way of tiptoeing around it.
We'll kind of go through, I think, the movie pretty chronologically. We'll go through the kills and stuff like that, what we thought of it, and we get to the final unreeling of the killers. Well, we might mention them before, like when we say the kills and who logically was doing them. I think, speaking of Scream, I think something that's iconic is that opening in the first one.
Tony
I quite
Revolori.
enjoyed.
Hey.
Yes, I quite liked the one in Scream 5, although it kind of felt weird to leave that character be. And like, big final spoiler warnings here. Get out, get out if you don't want to be spoiled. Okay, I think the opening in this, I mean, other than Scream 1, it might be my favorite opening. I really like the subversion. They tease it later on with the rules. You're subverting the expectations. What did you make of the opening with Samara Weaving and Tony Revolori?
When Tony took his face off and I saw his face, first of all, I lost my mind because it's Tony. But second of all, I lost my mind because I thought they were going to just show the killer straight away, and I thought,
that would have been sick.
That's interesting. Like, you don't really want to review your cards like that. And it got me really excited because, similar to Scream 5, obviously having Tara survive is subverting the expectations. Everyone at the start of a Scream film, the first person you pretty much see should be dead. That's the thing. They should always die. That's the rule. But Tara doesn't.
That's the rule.
To see Samara Weaving die, and then Ghostface immediately take off the mask and continue on his day, was quite exciting. Like, I was genuinely excited, and I thought, okay, we have something here. We have something going on here, and I like it. Moving on. He dies.
Yeah.
He dies very quickly. In a fun way. And you think, oh, okay, it's a double opener. Whoa, double whammy. We got 2 deaths on our hands. I like it. We're in New York. I'm doing an accent. And
hey, I'm stabbing here.
And we get into it, and it really does set the expectations that any rule of the Scream series is left behind, because we've got a double opener. We've seen the Ghostface killer revealed first of all. There's a second Ghostface killer who's now already dead, and now they're being switched over with another Ghostface killer. So I was thinking, okay, is there one Ghostface killer? Which we'll get to as we go later on with the spoilers. But it really does go, oh, fuck, because there's only ever been one Ghostface killer, and that's in 3. And
Yeah.
you don't really have that. There's always two, and then there's two there, and there's only one. Like, what's going on here? So
Yeah, I mean, if he's also able to, you gotta stretch your imagination so far because he's able to imitate literally everyone's
Everyone,
voice in
yeah.
it. That's so crazy. I
Yeah,
love
that
that
voice.
I like that they don't return to that. That was
Yeah.
a bit ridiculous.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's the opening kill there. I like the phone call that he has with Tony, who's, I think his name is in the movie Jason Crane. I don't know if I had some notes down there, but obviously like
Jason
the Jason
Cravey.
reference there. He's also watching Jason, I think the like a film from 1984, Jason whatever Goes to Manhattan, which is also like in itself a reference to, hey, Scream Goes to Manhattan, that meta level. He's also named Jason when he's watching a movie with Jason in it.
Jason.
It's never ends, the meta-ness of these films. And yeah, I like it. I mean, we'll get to that later in the subway scene, but I think that's like one of the best moments in Scream as a whole. The amount of stuff that they can pack into it. We meet the new expanded cast. Maybe we want to chat about them real quick. We got some more people in here. Obviously not
core four.
don't have
Core 4.
the core four. Yes,
Sam,
Tara, Mindy, and Chad.
Core 4.
Exactly. Then
Safe.
returning cast member Courtney Cox as Gale Weathers. No Neff Campbell returning. She's locked up with her husband that she, I think, had in, what is it, Scream 3 or 4 or whatever. When she had a husband that they got a kid. She's safe off to whatever later on sequel she might return at some point that would be very on the franchise heavy, kind of on in theme of the franchising as a whole. Then extended cast includes Detective Bailey, Jack Champion as Ethan Laundrie, who some people might have seen as the dreadlocks guy in Avatar 2. We got the hot neighbor, Danny Brackett. I don't know if they ever say his name. He's just the hot neighbor. We got Quinn Bailey, the daughter of the detective. Returning cast member Kirby Reed from Scream 4, who made it out of there. Oh no, it wasn't Jason Crane. It's Laura Crane. That's Samara Weaving's character, and I think Crane is also a director or an actor or whatever for some horror films. Every one of these names is like some kind of reference in some way. But yeah, what did you make of some of the extended? Oh no, I forgot Anika, Mindy's girlfriend, who's also in this. What did you make of the cast? Because I was a bit let down, but I'll get to that in a second. What did you make of them?
I don't care because they're expandable and they should all die. They all died incredible deaths. I don't care.
Core 4,
because
baby.
Core 4 is all that
Yeah.
matters. Core 4. Other than that, like, yeah, I don't have any preferences. Now, this is where my
Yep.
love of the movie is falling apart because I think other than the kills, the twists, I think everything else in the film is just a bit of a letdown. At
Yeah.
least from a quality standpoint. I don't think it's a terrible film. I just don't think it's like spectacular. Because I was very hyped up when I saw getting rave reviews. Someone even said it was like the best Scream film in the series, and I went, all right, hold up here.
I mean, I don't want to get ahead of myself, but it's like top 3, I'd say at most.
Yeah, it's good
at the moment.
It's just
I'd say.
not the best.
Yeah, it's
yeah. I still think that there's the new side characters, especially Danny. He's a bit of a nothing burger. Anika's a bit of a nothing burger. But Anika dies. Who cares?
Yeah, you know
most of them
what
die,
the biggest
really.
issue I have with the cast is that there's not enough of them. And it kind of makes sense in some ways in the writing department that they keep their circle core 4, baby. Keep it small and tight and whatever. But throughout the whole film, being the survivors of this thing, they rely so much on just like surviving because of the core 4, and there's a lot of like really, really, really dumb moments in this film that like it just make it a bit unbearable at times. We'll get to that in the finale, especially where I had a lot of issues with it. And yeah, I just thought that there were not enough suspects, like actual suspects that I was thinking it could actually go down to. That it kind of, I don't know, it was weird. Maybe it was the end reveal as well that kind of lessened it overall, because I felt like, well, okay, they just kind of picked everyone in this. I mean, we are in full on spoilers, so we can I guess like we talk about it a bit more, but we can reveal it right now that it's a family thing, like in I guess Scream 2, where we also have a mother and his her son doing the killing. We got a whole family here with Ethan, the detective, and his daughter with Quinn, who are free killers here. Quillers, I was about to say the sequel Quillers with Quinn. No, I don't like that. Let's not name them that way. But I think the detective does any killing. If I went through it over in my head, I think he's just like in Scream 3, he's the director, just like setting everything up. But then we go on a murder spree in a store that was prevalent in the trailers. So what did you make of that? Like the change up of, I guess, in New York, you gotta run into some more people, some store clerks that obviously have a shotgun, and he ends up using it as well. So there's like 3 kills in the store. What
Using
do you make
it
of that
terribly.
sequence?
Dude doesn't know how to shoot a gun.
I mean, one-headed as well. Like he's not anticipating.
Ghostface has some incredible reaction time, and I'd like to see the training that they go through to become a Ghostface in the movie. That would be interesting. Or a Ghostface just led movie, like just be the horror.
A Ghostface. Okay, you know what was kind of a bit of a letdown to me for this film? It set it up to be like, okay, there's a Ghostface killer, but then there's an actual Ghostface killer. He's not the actual one for the rest of the movie. He gets killed. And I thought in New York, you got a ton of people, way more than in Woodsboro. And if this is like a big conspiracy thing, and this franchise has just been ridiculous by the motivations that people have to end up doing the killing, you make it about the spectacle. Why not have a ton of Ghostface killers and then just have like it be a cycle of just a mess? And like obviously that makes no sense, but to me, kind of a short film where you just have like the side characters, like the main characters appear in like a scene where Tara goes to the party, and it just happens over and over again. They got like some connection to them, but it just get killed off. Like there's an SNL bit in that you could do that would actually be quite funny. And yeah, I don't know. To me, the reveal of the killers was a bit of a letdown. I don't know when that actually happens. I think it's later on in the film, but they named up Stu as well as like the theories of something being alive. I don't know if I like that they did that, because it could have been fun to do that, and then he ends up being the killer in this. Now that they've said it, whenever it does happen further down the line, it is a bit lessened because they've kind of dropped it here. I don't know. What did you make of that? Because, you would love to see him return, right?
I'd love to see him return. And as soon as I heard his name be dropped, I was like, stop it. And I thought because of the worn mask, he stole his mask back, and it's him. And that's
yeah.
And
that
was
sick.
never going to be a whodunit. It was going to be like it's the classic killer coming back to find his best mate, but his best mate is obviously dead, so he's going to go for the next best thing, his daughter, and they're going to start their own Ghostface killing career together, but he's got to get rid of all of the other good in her life.
Repeat that real quick, that he goes after Billy's daughter, because he ended up killing him, like betrayed his trust.
Yeah.
That would be a great motivation. You got the motivation down. It actually makes sense. It actually makes sense. Yeah. And then Gale, I think, is still alive. Was Gale, or was it Sydney who dropped the TV onto his face? I don't remember who it was. I think it was probably Sydney. Yeah. But so she'd have to return for this, I think, kinda. And,
but like you've got Skeet coming back. Surely we can get Matthew Lillard back.
Yeah.
Like, sure.
Imagine the kill where, like, other than like the old TV, it's like a flat screen, and like it's a cheap flat screen, and it picks it up and like beats her to death.
Yeah.
Like that would be a kind of funny meta reference death for Sydney. That would be impactful. It would be so dumb. They're never doing that, because I feel like they are a bit too precious with their characters in this. Core 4 seems to be a bit too powerful. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. Next up is the psychiatrist that Sam meets earlier. He's, I gotta say, one of the most shit psychiatrists I've ever seen on screen. As soon as she opens up about anything, he's like, oh, no, I cannot talk about that. Like, I was thinking in the moment, what do you do with veterans, in the war that killed people and did it for their country? And like, then they come to grasp with the fact, like, are you not doing
I
trauma?
thought that he was asking you because he was one of the killers, because I also had the same notion that what if there's just a bunch of them this time. Like there's
Yeah.
a lot of them, and they're all part of this conspiracy
All
online,
film
and they all
majors.
believe it. So every single person who's a side character, I was like, could they all just be killers, like
And they
hovering
compete with
around
each
them?
other?
And they're,
Yeah,
and
that
they're
was so
trying,
funny.
right? And that's why I
Yeah.
thought, oh, okay, the psychiatrist is just wanting to know what happened because he wants to know what happened, and he wants to be the one that proves that she's the killer. Like, this is where I thought it was going down, because he was just terrible at his job, and then never really comes back except for this one scene. Him dying was, okay, yeah, cool.
It was alright.
Move on.
I mean, it looked cooler just like from the opaque
The ghost face coming
screen.
through. Yeah,
Yeah.
it looked good.
That was kind of a sick image, but the kill itself was a bit underwhelming. Then we get our first big sequence once this hits the news, and we haven't really talked about that just yet. That like the theories are online that Sam actually is the killer and ended up blaming both Amber and what's his name in the first one, Richie, to be the actual killers, but she was like, a lot of this to me is ends up being kind of lazy writing to make that make sense later on in the story, because like Sydney and like as well as Gale were also there. It's like, well, then you're discounting them as well. It's a bit dumb and a bit of a stretch that they focus so much on it. There's a bunch of police stuff that is like really dumb as well, that like a lot of basic shit they don't figure out. Like, for example, Gale later on finds that shrine because she's a great reporter, but she couldn't figure out that, you know, there's an actual extended family to Richie, and like nothing of that she was able to connect. Kirby as well with the FBI. It's a bit dumb. I said, I think in my review, I said it's like the most realistic thing about the Scream franchise is how shit the police is at dealing with anything. Because like that's kind of realistic. We get our first big sequence in the apartment, the ladder scene, which sees a whole bunch of stabbing being done, a chase through the apartment. What did you make of that whole sequence?
Bit of a mess at the start, but the climbing over of the ladder itself was probably the best moment of it all. But I mean, messy is part of the Scream fun. You can't really, have a Scream movie without Ghostface like whipping his arms around all crazy like, and then tripping over and falling down on something, and like they're pushing shit when they're like, that's what makes Scream, like the really dumb stuff. So I don't really hate that it's messy. But for a final kill, it was quite like a first big kill. It was quite gruesome, just to almost die of bleeding out, which I thought was what was going to happen.
Yeah.
Like he was just going to walk into the room, she was going to just bleed out, and that he was just going to leave it and then move on. And I thought that was going to be the kill. Just like he doesn't continue the stab, he just stands there watching her bleed out, because he really did gut her in twist.
Yeah. Oh, it was brutal.
Up.
And
that was
up.
a brutal one.
Yeah.
Mindy got away with a little cut on the arm, and she was complaining more than what Annika was complaining. So
yeah, I mean, she was kind of slow. I think that was like a solid moment where we can see the impact of a stab.
Yeah,
I feel like they got a quick heal thing. They almost like Wolverine in these films, where like by the end of it, just walk it off.
Yeah,
it's a bit crazy. Even
walk
like
it off.
even
I'm
after
walking
that,
here.
She can't walk after that like big old drop. I like how long it takes her to actually fall down as well.
Yeah,
that's like I think the best usage of the New York City like setting as a whole, because you get those skyscrapers.
New York
you
is
get
up,
like the falling down.
It's up, not big.
It's
just
lateral
up.
movement, man.
Yeah, and then to have her head slam on dumpster, and then the close up of half of her face smashed. Ooh.
We had some big reactions in a theater for that one. That was probably the most impactful kill there, where you actually like feel it. And then the other two kills with like off-screen kill of the guy Quinn is banging in the bathroom. And then her just kind of dropping out. Here, I guess the logic is that it actually was Ethan. So once we get to like the reaction to like, okay, what the fuck just happened? It's a bit odd to me that he comes up like, oh my god, what you guys, what just happened? And then he says, oh, you can question the people like in that the lecture hall that I was in. It's not a leap of logic that they don't do it. To me, later on, it would have made sense. Okay, we can stretch the logic here. It was actually Detective Bailey who did the killing there, and then it would make sense. But I think it's implied that Ethan actually did it. And then to me, that is a bit stupid that they don't investigate that. They seem to be like really like pointing fingers in accusing, but then actively not trying to solve anything.
Yeah.
And that is a bit counterintuitive. It's probably like the least, it's the worst thing about the writing by far. Then we move on. There's a whole bunch of stuff that happens, but it's just kind of a blur to me. Well, maybe not that much happens because they have a plan of luring him into Central Park, is I think is what they try to do. Which okay, is a plan that they have that they're setting through, and now that Quinn is supposedly dead, it makes it possible for basically all of our characters be in the same place. We see them, so no one of them can be Ghostface. And I think that was like something interesting because it was like, well, it's got to be at least two, and it's got to be maybe one of them, but someone else is off to it. And at this point, I wasn't really set. I don't know. Were you set on your predictions of who it was, or were you?
Yeah, as
like,
soon as the
jumping
cop came
around?
out, like crying, the crying just didn't feel right, and I couldn't
Right,
tell if
okay.
the actor wasn't good at crying, but I didn't think that's what it was
It's
because
so meta.
for being for when you're told that, you know, the cop moved to New York because his son died to be closer to his daughter, to then have his daughter
Yeah.
die, and that be the scene, like him crying but not heavily, and then still be able to carry a conversation. I thought no, and also to be the only cop coming out of that, like he shouldn't, as a cop, his daughter has been murdered, he shouldn't be the one that goes in there. So a lot of that was big
Yeah.
red flags for me, but it kind of moved on as he was with them. As you said,
Mhm.
now that like Quinn is dead,
Yeah.
you can see these guys all in the same scene together, and it makes more sense. And then you obviously have the
Mhm.
cop and Detective Bailey and
Yeah.
Kirby sort of going at each other, being like, oh, you know, Kirby's not been working for the FBI, she's on the downward spiral, yada, 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 and Kirby's coming in, you know, we think that, and then we think Quinn's bad, we think, sorry, not Quinn, Kirby's bad. There's a bit of a mix-up that happens, and they really do
Mhm.
throw you under the bus with all of
Yeah.
this information, and you got to really process it, but,
Yeah.
Gale.
To Gale, yeah. No,
Needs
sorry, I kind of
to-
want to tag on to
Go
that
ahead,
real
go ahead,
quick.
Go ahead.
Because with Quinn, I thought the setup, like when she came in and was like, yeah, when my brother died, he transferred. I was like, okay, well, they're setting up something that is really in your face with the like motivation. Okay, it could be tied to like another character. Would make sense with Richie and something like that. And I was like, well, no, now that she's dead, it doesn't really make sense anymore. So I kind of was underwhelmed by her death, but I believed it in a moment. And it was actually quite effective at throwing me for a loop. It's like, okay, who are they actually going for? Because high on my suspect list was also the detective that's like so fucked up in his mind that he would end up killing his own daughter. And I was like, okay, wait, how can I justify this? And it made it kind of harder. So I think that was a clever thing to write it this way. It actually like threw me for a loop for a bit, but yeah, I guess she's just not dead, and for some reason he can get away with that because police. But yeah, you were saying something with Gale. She's basically in the next scene, right?
She needs to get a better gun safe.
I also didn't pick up on that. It was the first time she was like specifically called, and to see like that Quinn is like taking that big like muscular dude out and just like dragging him off screen without making a sound. 2 seconds later, we back on the phone. That is being traced, so it actually was her calling. Is also a bit of a stretch. And then like that Gale being in the 6th movie in this franchise, not picking up, then if Ghostface is calling you, he's probably in your apartment, not really going with that. And also with the gun just moving too close to the thing, to the closet, to be like overwhelmed. A bunch of choices that were a bit like dumb to me. To me, it was also like the logic of, do all of the Ghostface killers who are a bit shorter just wear heels all the time? That's why they end up being so clumsy. They just like are in high heels. That's something like that. But then I checked. It was actually they were kind of the same height, so they did kind of go for that detail with Gale and at this point Quinn in the suit. What do you make of that standoff where it's like the fake off, maybe killing off Gale, and then not really.
I
What
didn't
did you
like
make of
it.
that scene?
I wish they had more balls to kind of just kill off Gale and
Yeah.
let her be done with the series. But you said it earlier. Anyone in the core 4 and legacy characters are very safe.
Yeah, they say that anyone's expendable, but they're not. They're not at this point in the franchise yet. And to me, it was a bit of a letdown. We'll get to it later on because we're quite close. We get to the subway scene, and then we'll get to the final standoff there. But yeah, to me, I think Courtney Cox also didn't work for me in the scene. She
Okay.
also had some pretty bad lines there that she had to say, I guess, that are a bit cheesy, like, tell Sydney Ghostface didn't get me. I was like, what the fuck is that even supposed to mean?
Yeah.
Like, he stabbed you. You're about to die from, like, what the fuck? I don't know. I don't know what was that that she was doing there. Maybe they would save a kill for Gale if, like, Sydney was back, because then it would feel more impactful having someone to mourn her still, because these characters don't have that, like, deep connection with her. I don't know what they were thinking with that scene. I guess there was an attack that had to involve Gale because she was in the movie. Other than that, there's no real purpose for her being in it. She was, again, underwritten, like in Scream 5. Now, the next brilliant plan is, after the shrine, which we haven't talked about just yet, really, to lock him in there. And basically, yeah, lock him in. I don't know what that plan was. It
Kill
was a bit stupid
cage.
because as soon as they enter that thing, they always do like the horror film thing of splitting up immediately. It's so
Yep.
dumb. But yeah. So that's their plan. On their way to the subway, they get separated. Mindy ends up being in the same train as Ghostface, as Quinn, and Ethan, who's also Ghostface but pretending to be a shy little guy who's actually a virgin at this point. And Chad, Mindy, Hot Guy, Tara, and Sam are in the other one. So what did you make of that sequence? Because I think it was probably one of the best sequences in all of Scream. I quite liked it.
Why did you like it?
I liked the over the top thing of the light going out and then just like people moving slightly, and there were a lot of things to pay attention to. I didn't like the stab of Mindy at the end because it was like such a stretch, to mouth covered and then no one just picks up on what's happening.
Yeah.
But I liked it. I liked all of the references in that, and it was a tense scene. I felt the tension.
I get it. I loved the cuts to each mask and each horror character. I thought that was quite fun.
Yeah.
But it was one of the more unbelievable parts. When
Yeah.
you see the lights flashing, Mindy should have just been like, "Nah, bro, this is not it. This is not it," and should have had something. Something should have happened. Anyway,
You know what was a bit of a letdown to me is like it felt like the most we got one subway card set type of things ever, because having seen Bullet Train, I just kind of want them like to move throughout it, and she just leaves. And
she just leaves.
she what you could do is like you do the classic Scream thing. You can still make it pretty unbelievable as a killer, as she's like backed up more and more. She crosses, and as soon as she opens, the other door opens as well, and it's like a ghost face coming her way. And in the middle section of the subway, I don't know if they got that. Now maybe they don't have that in the subway. It just like continues to the next department. No, they got like a middle thing there, right? They
No,
got
there
to.
are some middle parts.
And then like she ends up being stabbed in there. And I also didn't get why they were just kind of lightly stabbing her and not finishing her off. To me, that was kind of didn't make like that much sense. I don't know what the plan was there. Maybe it was for her to believe that Ethan is actually not the bad guy, because like the plan was initially, I guess, to stab Quinn a bit so she believes it, goes to the hospital. Everyone's at the hospital at this point, and then Ethan has to drop her off for some reason. I don't know when that happens. Like we don't get that whole sequence where she gets when Ethan leaves from Mindy, and then he just appears, I guess, for this final standoff, which I think is where we're getting to right now. So what did you make of the reveal, the mislead that maybe Kirby is actually it, and she was like fired from the FBI?
I thought that was interesting because, again, I really want the whole Samantha becomes a Ghostface killer. So to have someone who has been on the opposite end of the knife become the Ghostface killer was actually exciting. It was kind of like the reveal in Scream 2 where can't remember what his name is, but he's like, and my accomplice, and then Gale Weathers like walks out of the door, and then and they're like, no, not Gale, and she's like, no, Loomis's mother is right behind me, and there's like that's the that's what I was hoping
That's
for
great.
kind of thing, right?
Mhm.
Anyway,
Yeah.
I liked it because it kind of throws you off, and then there's the big reveal. I think the whole end is fun, it's exciting. I just wish there was no guns until the end.
Yeah. To me, let's break down that scene because we get a bit of a split off. Kirby is off to one side. Chad needs to make out with Tara. And Sam is there just staring at her father. And like I like the shrine thing of it all, like all of them
Yeah.
with all of the old stuff. It's also another like huge leap of your suspension of disbelief that like
Yep.
you know they could assemble all of this, but it's kind of a fun franchise thing to have. But then he gets stabbed. I counted, I think, at least 6 stabs that Chad takes. Brutal. And then we get the synchronized knife wipe that we also get at the start of this episode.
Woo, baby.
And it's sick. It's sick. And I feel like it would have been a worthy send-off for Chad to have that like moment, the big reveal. There's another one in there. And yeah, he ends up surviving, I guess, at the very end. We're kind of off to believe that he passed. And then there's a bigger chase that happens that then it doesn't really happen. It quickly is just like ended with the reveal that we got a family of killers there. What did you make of the, I guess, obligatory Ghostface speeches of spelling out the motivation?
It was long and convoluted. All I really needed to know is that it was Richie's family. I didn't really know that, they didn't have to tell me that it was
the rumors.
Richie's like shrine and the rumors. Like it was just getting a bit more convoluted, and I was like, okay, let me get back to the stabbing now. And yeah, I was hoping to have more deathness. Because I think the out of the 3 kills, the son Ethan's is the best, with Tara like knife straight through the mouth, and like you can see her enjoying it, and you're like, is this about to become a Ghostface clicking? I like doing this kind of thing, because
they could.
Quinn
Oh my
is
god!
just shot in the head.
Future franchise opportunity: Ghostface Busters, going around the country in Minority Report style. Anyone who's even thinking about becoming Ghostface, they just go on and murder spree.
I like it.
Every Redditor who's ever commented or downvoted anything. No. Yeah, I think he's the best kill. I mean, Quinn just gets a headshot. That's basically all she gets. She's also, if you look at the kills, who did what? Quinn didn't finish off Mindy. She's kind of a softie. She also didn't finish off Gale. Ethan ended up killing the first guy, Jason. He kills probably all those dudes in the store. He also kills Anika. So he's the one with the bigger death count. At the end of it, Quinn, I think, didn't kill a single person in this, if I remember correctly. So it's kind of funny because if you look back at Scream 5, I think also Richie, because he was the boyfriend the whole time, ended up being maybe the killer for, at a stretch, maybe one of the deaths, maybe Wes with like the stab through the face. But other than that, I think it was all of Amber, and they imply that as well when Sam goes like he was a limp dick pussy, like straight to the face. And to me, I think you were saying before that maybe the acting from the detective when he was crying wasn't believable. I kind of thought that maybe they picked the worst 3 actors to be the killers in this. I've seen Liana in some other stuff where she's just usually like in rom-coms or whatever. She was a bit weak there. I think that Jake Champion might be better further down the line, but he didn't work for me at all in Avatar 2. So to see them be like this over the top scream character didn't work for me. I think the reveal and the ending bit is probably the weakest part of this movie, unfortunately. You mentioned guns. There's like a moment where Tara falls down because like there was a gunshot. Detective was firing at her, and then Ethan was flailing his knife to get her, and he still has bullets. I don't know, maybe he ran out of bullets because he then comes up just stabbing and wanting to stab Sam
Yep.
and he doesn't have the gun anymore. So I guess it's
Real
implied
dumb.
that he's run out of bullets for some reason. He used like 2 on Kirby and then 1 on Tara, and that's the whole magazine that he had left as a police officer. But then like that's the leap of logic that you have to jump through there as he jumps down and stabs him in the mouth. And then yeah, it was also a bit silly that like the detective and Sam just run at each other and then fall down. It was
Yeah.
like such a bizarre thing. It's so I don't know. It was a bit over the top. But then we get the final kill where we get Sam kill the detective. The detective, I mean, later on, there's not a like stab or shot. I don't know how they end up killing Ethan. He survives a bunch of stabs from Sam, finally gets finished off by Tara to whoopsie, one of them always comes back, be killed. But what did you make of that like moment where he has to go around and is like scared away? He obviously has more bullets. He just didn't use them before.
It was the dumb. Even though Quinn dies very quickly, his death was just like.
You mean Wayne? Wayne the detective?
Yeah, no, but we're talking about no. Quinn dies from the bullet to the head. I'm talking about.
Yeah, okay, yeah, no.
Yeah, Wayne.
Okay.
Wayne, well, Detective Bailey. He's
stabbed like 30 times.
yeah, as a police officer,
Yeah.
he should probably use his gun a bit more wisely. But at the same time, he should also, I guess, be smarter than just why is he shooting all of the Ghostface figures? It's a bit of a dumb thing.
It's also edited a bit like clumsily, where he's basically he's behind her, and I think it's trying to be disorienting because he might be like stressed out in the moment.
Yeah,
doesn't convey on screen too well, and then it's basically just about that moment where Sam is in total control. I didn't really like that moment. I like Tara throughout this. I think the best part about this series to me is like in 2 of the performances. I think Jason Gooding as Chad is amazing. I love him. He's like oozing charisma. He's so great to watch. He's so fun. And then Jenna Ortega as this like she's not really faced by it, but she's obviously not okay. I like that they imply that she's just a great actress. So when she goes like, she asks like, "Are you okay?" and she says no. There's so much to it where like she was holding off in this really surface level story that's got like some bad writing throughout. But when she says the line, I believe it, and it feels like there's an impact to it. Although they probably won't deliver on it in like the sequels, but I like that. And then she finishes him off again, like you don't fuck with family. We have arrived at the end. I think we went in so much detail with this whole thing. I think that's the most extensive review we've ever given to a film where we break it down like scene by scene. But we have our survivors: Tara, Sam, Chad. I was just like, how? It seemed pretty like fatal. Also where he was stabbed. Mindy survives, walks it off like crazy, just like a little bit of blood on the side, but she walks up straight, no problem there. Gale, Kirby, and the hot dude, who I guess we haven't really mentioned because he didn't really have much to do with the story other than be like a suspect at some point. What do you think about the future of this now franchise, very established franchise with Scream 7?
Out of all of the horror reboots that have come out recently, this is the best. So I have good faith it's in good hands.
If you could redo some of the parts of this film, would you have picked a different killer? And who would you maybe have gone for?
I think I like both of the ideas of there being multiple Ghostface killers. And also the idea of like Stu coming back, or like a classic killer coming back, but most of them like actually do die, which is really hard to do, to have them come back. So
it's also a stretch in logic that like they would also need to go back to the police at this point. All of the years where Dewey was like in control of the police, that something like that goes unnoticed. It's a huge stretch, but it would be still fun.
Multiple Ghostface would have been cool. Like them all trying to compete with each other to be the best Ghostface, so that then Ghostface gets a call and it's just, "What's your favorite scary movie?" And it's just like he's then asking the question back, like it's just just all of that just been a bit of fun.
It would be funny, or like hold up, I got another phone on the line, and he picks it up and it's like slightly different. What's your like?
It's all just different. Yeah,
I think that's the way to go with the franchise to keep it fresh, and also like I was actually like by the opening, I was really surprised. It caught me off guard. I wasn't expecting it, and it is a great way to do that. By the way, I was a film major. I studied film at university. we've never had a class on slashers. I think that would be so
You
fun.
should.
So
I
yeah.
wish.
Although a professor wouldn't make it far. I think to me it would have been interesting if maybe just because I like him so much, if someone like Chad ends up being the killer from the core 4, like pushing that we are a unit, and then he ends up being the one betraying it. I think that's not gonna happen anymore. Yeah, if you had to think about the future of this franchise with Scream 7 early, really early on predictions, who do you think will like go in that type of story? Who would go? Because I feel like it
Core
would have to
4
be either
stays.
Sam or you would think they stay for like the whole franchise?
I mean, Dewey, Gale, and Sydney all survive. They're the core 3. And I can't
Yeah.
think of anyone else. I was going to say Randy, but Randy dies in number 2.
Randy would be like core 4 for the first film. You know, he survives because he
Yeah.
survived the first film, but then
I would
he's
say
killed early on.
that Chad will have to die because he's now the love interest.
I was thinking maybe they go into like a different route for this, and they kill off either Sam or Tara, which would be like a huge step, and
It's a
it's
big
like
play.
you know the main two. And I don't know if they would do it. And with Jenna Ortega being the biggest star, it kind of would make sense that maybe they set it up like this with legacy thing. You got like in like I don't know, in 7, the big standoff is maybe Stu returns and he ends up killing Sam, and then Tara is like the shell of a person. And yeah, you got like her and Chad in like Scream 8
Yeah.
and Mindy, and then Mindy passes on and like she's left off alone. I feel like I would like to see this go a bit darker, because what ends up being the case is that like people who they're not so attached to end up passing, and they're really lighthearted about it. That's just like the vibrant nature and the like quick pacing of these Scream films. But I would love to see them like they got someone, Jenna Ortega. Give her some trauma to suffer through. She can do something with
You can do
it.
it.
She's a great actress. So I would love to see some more chances being taken with the kills, and not like people feeling so safe, especially if they set it up as their own rules in that movie. But Lachlan, where do you arrive at as a rating for Scream
I
6?
gave Scream 6 a 3.5 out of 5 on Letterboxd.
I gave it a 3 out of 5. Same rating as I gave Scream 5, although I do think that it is a slight improvement over that last film. I had a bit of a better time with the like sequences, although both of them have a few writing issues. And in that first one, I also called both of the killers from the get-go. Here, my initial impression also was right, but tagging on Ethan at the end of it. But yeah, overall, I think a bit less predictable, so a bit more enjoyable for me. Lachlan, could you quickly rank like from best to worst all of the Scream films? Now that you've seen it,
Yes.
do
The
it,
best
Lachlan.
one.
Do it.
The best one is going to be 1. Then it's going to
Agreed.
go Scream, Scream 2, Scream 6, 5, 3, 4.
Okay, really similar to mine. I would go Scream 1, then 2, then 6, then 5, then 4, then 3. Scream 3 is still my least favorite.
Same? Oh wait, no.
No, I
did
think
4
you
and 3
put
backwards.
4 at last. I think we just have the last 2 switched, but we agree on most of it here. I'm curious to see more of the franchise. I'm keen for it. Which we might get another one in a year's time. They had a quick turnaround time for this latest one. Lachlan, if you had to pair up in real Scream style with references and stuff like that, Scream 6 with another movie, what would you pick?
I'm doing a triple feature, baby. It's
Oh my god, okay.
the Final Girls from 2015, very similar in the same vein of it's, who's going to be the final girl, and they do make a bit of fun of horror films, and The Faculty. I think it's a really good horror film from the late 90s that also kind of goes into that horror meta-ness aspect.
Yeah, some great picks here, some stuff that I have to catch up on as well. I think I'm not familiar with either of those films. I went with another classic because I am that, what's a Letterboxd quote again? I don't know, what Mindy says, whatever, those film lovers with cinephiles with Letterboxd accounts. But I'm picking Psycho for the reason of Laura Crane. Samara Weaving's character is named Laura Crane. Marion Crane is the actress who played the girl who gets stabbed in Psycho. So I'm going with Alfred Hitchcock's Psycho. It also gets name dropped, the second one. I don't know if you've seen Psycho 2, but it's like underrated. To be fair, like we didn't touch on that in our review, but it's like that little moment between Kirby and Mindy, where they go like, best Nightmare on Elm Street film is the first one. Friday the 13th, Mindy goes with 2, Kirby goes with the final chapter because she had a crush on a guy. And then Psycho 2 is underrated. And the last one I can actually chime in on is like Candyman. What's better, the original or the requel? I would also say both of them are great. We've seen them both as well, right? We talked about it on the show here. But yeah, I was like, for a franchise that's so like referential, I feel like they went with the most basic takes you could have. But yeah, that's what's in store for you if you want to have a double feature. Now, when it comes to new releases, there's really just one big film that comes out this week, and that's the one of the last films under the old DC regime, with the sequel to Shazam, named Fury of Gods. I think that will probably end up being the movie we talk about next week. I don't know if something else comes up. There's another limited space movie with Willem Dafoe called Inside, but that's out in limited release only in the States. So I don't know if we'll get it anytime soon, though we might end up covering that a bit later on, maybe in our What We've Been Watching segment. But that's that for this week. Be sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel for more of this weekly podcast that we end up doing here. And you can follow Lachlan and me on all of our socials. Those are linked below. Lachlan, you have anything else to add to our review here? Just close it out with the good old,
stab.
Don't have Ghostface in
you
mind.
You spent all of our budget on the opening, and we have a shit ending.
Yeah.
Thanks, Ewan.
Well, that's the Scream franchise, baby.
The Scream franchise, baby.
One. Yeah. All right. Have a good one. Bye-bye. Thank you so much, Mr. Ghostface.
Thank you, Mr. Ghostface.
See, healing is done in this country.
How much did you pay him?
He's actually into this. This is kind of a service he provides. He's about to clean my kitchen as well. It's a thing of his, so it's fine. He likes to be stepped on. Yeah, it's a family thing.
Sure. I had literally no idea this was happening. This is great.